Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, I am your host, Kev Baker, and this is today's Kev Baker Show right here on Truth Frequency Radio Network, TFRLive.com, where we give you protection from deception and where silence is consent. Big shout out to Chris and Cherie Geo for everything they do for all of us hosts behind the scenes. Makes it real easy. We can just slide on in here and then get to work. And today, well, it's really a struggle for me to call this work because I've got a new guest to introduce to all of you out there. And I suspect you're going to be very impressed. But before we get there, that's right, this is KBS and we're coming to you live from Smart City, Glasgow. We're going all the way from Australia back to America and everywhere in between. And like I said, that's thanks to TFRLive.com. And TFR is nothing without you listeners out there. So a big thank you to all of you for thinking for yourself, for questioning everything around you. Here's a big pat in the back. I'm telling you, I'm proud of you. You should be proud of you too. And I tell you, after tonight's show, I think we're all going to be blown away because we're going to be going in a kind of different direction today. And we're going to be introducing this new guest that I've been talking about. And her name is Mercedez Lucke-Benedict. Now, Mercedes is a medical intuitive empath. She's also a clairvoyant, sees spirits. She's a clairaudient. She hears spirits. A clairsentient, that's feeling and sensing spirit, and a claircognizant, a knowing and remote view seer with the ability to see areas and images that are even in different time periods. Now that's right up the KBS alley, right? This path occurred after 2 back-to-back near-death car crashes 4 months apart in the year of 2008. Now, these catastrophic events, plus others, created who Mercedes is today. And God had a job for her to do, and her clientele is across the world. Like attracts like. And we were just talking before the show about how, at this time, right now, people are coming across other people that are very relevant. We're meeting all of the right people at all of the right time. Mercedes also likes to spread sunshine everywhere where she goes. And that's why I've got a big smile on my face today, because I've got a funny feeling that this is going to be a really good show. So without any further ado, let me introduce Mercedes to the KBS audience. How are you doing?
I'm so great. Hello and thank you. What a beautiful, just a whole beautiful introduction that was. And I really appreciate it. And I'm so thankful to be here tonight or just be speaking with you. And it's just so wonderful. Thank you.
No, thank you. I suspect, like I say, I've got a good gut feeling about this one. And for the audience out there, don't panic. Everything's okay with Scotty. He'll be here after the first break. His mum had just got home from the store. So we can't have Scotty not getting his munchies before he gets on set. That wouldn't be pretty. But listen, I'm really looking forward to getting to know you a lot better, Mercedes. I'm looking forward to hearing your story as well. I know that you have come into contact with Bill Bean in your life. And I'd said to Bill, listen, Bill, don't tell me nothing. I want to come in here. I want to be fresh. I don't want to have any idea of what real stuff we're going to be getting into. I've got a general idea, don't get me wrong. But I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. So before we find out what brought you into contact with Bill Bean, how about you tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are and how you got here?
Okay. Wow. It's really been quite a fantastic journey, this life. I do want to say really quick, I'm really glad that Scotty's going to be on because I've been listening to you guys, especially on Freaky Friday, And every time I listen, I think, oh, I have something I can share about that. So I've got a few little items that I'm going to share with you when he comes on. It's going to be so fun.
Well, that sounds awesome. Thank you.
I know. I just can't believe I actually get to be here. I'm so thankful to God for manifesting this for me. You know what? I want to say a little prayer just for us. Just we ask just to have everything go just so smoothly today. And we're so thankful, God, for this moment. And may this time bless all of us with divine light. Aho. Anyway, here we go.
You see,
so
this is what I'm talking about already.
Me.
This is what I'm talking about already. You have already brought sunshine onto the KBS set. You really, really have. Listen to that voice, ladies and gentlemen. That's vibrance. That's energy. That's positive vibes.
Yeah.
I've got the goosebumps on. It's always a good sign. Trust me, Mercedes, I'm not trying to creep you out. That's the good sign that we're onto a good show here. So I'm going to sit back, I'm going to shut up, and I want to hear all about you.
Yeah, you shut up.
Exactly.
I wish I could. I had everything ready, to visually, and wow, everything went so smooth. So I'm like, wow, okay. But I'm happy just to be able to talk, and that makes me be able to sense more and tune in more. So it's actually better. So what happened to me was I was just like as a child, I was very sensitive, and I could see things then, but I didn't know or understand any of it. And then I kind of went into this path of some really weird stuff as a child, just a lot of difficulties going on, but yet it was still a good childhood. So I really wasn't on this path. I really wanted to be a singer and an actress, and that's really where I went to be. My whole life was writing songs, singing on stage, a family band, acting. I had my own radio shows. All that is really where I came from. And then little did I know that what I know now is that there were pitfalls that happened in my life that pretty much would always destroy many good things that happened to me. Like I'd rise to a good top somewhere, and then something self-destructive would occur. And so what occurred the last time was basically I lost everything. I lost my family, and I lost all of my music. I lost my career as in that respect. And I started over. And this ended up being where I started over was in Tucson, Arizona. So when I started over here, I also decided I'd go into massage therapy because that way I could keep up with my child and my family, even though we were divorced, and I could start this new path. I could try to do my music and all my acting and whatever. So I ended up right before the just a week before graduating or getting on to the next level of massage therapy, I was in a terrible car accident where I should have died. I literally don't know how I did not die, but I didn't. But what happened was I could not go to finish school anymore. I lost pretty much everything. Again, I started to become homeless. Almost. I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. I couldn't walk. It was terrible. But at the same time, I just so happened to be blessed with a man that I worked for 14 years now, the past 14 years, a Dr. Steven Swidler. And this person just so happened to be like, I don't know, just like a Star Wars person, from the, like you guys always talk about, superpowers. I think of him as that way. Well, he basically helped to heal me, and I began after that first accident. Something happened to me in that first accident where I started to see things inside the body. I knew them at the time when this had happened too, and I was having a lot of difficulties just trying to, get going. I had a radio show at that time. I was on air, and it was Connecting Spirit, Team CST, Connecting Spirit together with Mercedez Lucke-Benedict. No, actually, I wasn't married then, so Mercedez Lucke. But what happened was, just as I was beginning to get my life back together and going into therapy, but the doctor, I started to be able to really heal myself through the teachings of the doctor and just whatever had happened with God. God started coming into my life and healing me. Well, what do you know? Another car accident happens. This time my son's in the car, and these were back-to-back car accidents. I kid you not, like 4 months apart from each other. This one, we rolled the car on a highway. There was a sandstorm, and I flipped the car, they said, probably 13 times, and every window was smashed. We should have died. But at that particular time, all I remember was thinking, thank God, I always knew I didn't want my son in the car before the other accident because he would have been dead. But this one, I just reached my hand over and I'm just like, just prayed to God. And I felt this cocoon come over us. And like a bubble, I literally felt it. And we were saved from that car accident. We both walked out alive. And it was after that particular car accident that I really began to see spirits and hear. And everything used to be kind of in a fog, or as they say, a veil. It was similar to like a veil as I progressed in the steps as the years went by. But so that time I kept, I literally couldn't walk before, but I kept learning how to breathe and how to move through the body and how to heal myself. And so I just kept that up, and I kept working with people, and amazing people kept coming to me. And then all of a sudden I found myself working for the doctor at Medicine Will Dental and Wellness, which is a world-renowned, he retired, world-renowned dental body-jaw alignment program where we worked with cranial sacral, TMJ. We literally worked with everything, anything wrong with a person from 0 to 1 million. We just worked with everybody. It was quite a unique thing. And he would literally, he honed my work. He taught me so much about a lot of the things that you and your show actually talk about. Like, I'm always blown away because I've missed them all during the retirement and this past year with the you-know-what, how we've all been home or changed our lives this last year. I miss that interaction with these people, but finding you guys on the radio station, on the radio station, but on YouTube, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are just like people I'm used to. It's been so refreshing.
Well,
so anyway,
just
yeah,
listening to you there, I mean, that's a lot to unpack there, but it's great to hear you talking. You're a wonderful speaker. No wonder you had a radio show. I can tell you'd be very good at this. And that's me giving you a big compliment there, Mercedes. And
oh, good.
I was just thinking, Arizona to begin with, when you said Arizona, for me, anytime I hear of Arizona, I think of like this energetic soup, like a mecca almost for people that are attuned to the finer kind of energies, that are into the metaphysical, that are more spiritually aware. It seems to draw people in and then almost enhance their powers. That's one thing, but the car crashes you mentioned, I mean, thank God, literally thank God you and your son are here, but this, I've written down on my notes here, it sounds like some kind of Final Destination thing, but where, the first one didn't get you, the second one tried, but then I thought about it a different way, Mercedes, and adding it into the context of it, almost now enhancing your vision making things clear for you. I often say to Bill, being as horrible as it sounds, and I remember saying it to him in the first show we done, I said, Bill, don't take this the wrong way. I think you had to go through that to be the person you are today. And I want to ask you, now that you've had, hindsight's a great thing, but do you think you had to go through that, Mercedes, to take you to the place where you are now?
Yes, I know I did.
Yeah.
It's a definite, especially with the work I do now and understanding what is the truth, which I love how you guys talk about the truth. So I really went looking for the truth because, at the time, no, it was not fun. And, there was another thing too. There were times I was very depressed at the loss of my family and the stupid things that had occurred. And I wanted to kill myself. So I kind of got messed up really bad at one point in that same year. And I really wanted to take my life, and it didn't happen. I wasn't allowed to even do that. So all those three things happened within 1 year. And so when especially after the second car crash, that's when I knew, like, there is a mission here. I have something I'm supposed to do. So I went full-fledged into it at that time. I really did. And when I look back now at everything that occurred, we can lose many things once, twice. I probably lost everything 3 times, maybe 4. But then when you almost die several times, and I know I was saved. So, yeah, when I look back now, I realize that every single thing that we go through is a test. I think of it as a test. And I think that we just keep going through it, and then we make it to the other side. Now, if somebody, say, for instance, doesn't make it, or if I had have done the suicide thing, I would have missed a lot. I would have missed a huge amount of life that I would have never dreamed I could have had. And so I really try to talk to people and help people when they are contemplating those things, or when they're super depressed, or things that we go through, because, if it's really, a lot of it has to do, as Bill Bean has said, with unwanted, harmful, detrimental, disrespectful energies that are attached to us through our lifetimes. And that's what was happening. I have had energies that have followed my family from lifetime to lifetime, is what I believe. And this was the lifetime where something was supposed to happen, and I kept getting stopped. And almost killed. And even the last year has been a testimony to a reoccurrence of that same theme.
Well,
Yeah.
let's. I think we should maybe talk about that now. Like you say, we've all been having to spend extended amount of times in the house. We all know why that is, and I thank you for not
Yeah.
going there, because I'd love to be able to put this on YouTube so people can hear your story, Mercedes. So I thank you for that, and people know what we're talking about. So one of the things we talked about on the show, and I've said it with Bill and Travis, and I think Derek as well, with people being in the house more time than they usually are, we might start to hear about some kind of uptick in paranormal activity. And just looking around every day for that type of story, I think on the surface, from what I see, there's certainly been an uptick. And you're one person that can really talk to the increased paranormal activity during the lockdown. Mercedes, tell us what's been going on.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm in total agreement with every time I've heard you guys speak about that. And I do have to say that I believe it was starting even before the lockdown occurred with others in my work. There was a series of events that seemed to be happening in a repetition around a lot of different clients or patients at the time, both patients or clients. And it was just interesting. I just knew something was going to be happening that last year. It was almost like a buildup to just something happening. I just had no idea it was going to be what it was. But it was pretty rough, as we all know. So as far as here goes, well, over all the years that I've been here, which has been 6 now, there's always been an ongoing battle, and there's always been me trying to bring in some help, because at the same time I was learning just how to deal with everything, and how to remove energies, and how to clear places. And so I was lucky enough to have the most amazing shamans through medicine wheel I'd meet, or medicine. I just all kinds of amazing people from all over the world were trying to help us out here, whether by phone or they would come here. And so at the last January, we had an investigation the prior year in 2019 with one of the paranormal television shows. And
which one is it, Mercedes? I don't mind you giving it a shout out if you want to give it a shout out.
Okay. It was the Dead Files.
Awesome.
Okay. So, and it took me 3 years to try to get on the Dead Files. The first year I tried, Joe's my husband. Joseph Benedict is my husband. And he said, no, Mercedes, we're not doing that. And so then the second time I tried, I couldn't get the computer to work. I couldn't get the one at my work to work. It would not push the button, would not go through. So it was like, no, you're not getting an investigation. The stuff that's here was just adamant about that. And so the third year, which was 2000, I don't know if it was 2019, I think is when I actually did. And yeah, that's right, in February. 2019 February, it's around our anniversary time. That always skyrockets with bad stuff here. And they actually called me, and they actually came out and did an investigation here. And it was an amazing thing for me, because it validated and verified everything I had seen here. I draw spirits. I see them and I draw them. I've been doing it pretty much for 5 years, or I think 5 years. When I see a spirit in a session or session work, I draw them, or just the ones that are around here or that I see, I started to sketch them because I'm an artist, so I can do that. That's one of the things they do on the Dead Files. They always bring out a sketch artist, which I'm like, well, I guess I can just do that for myself.
So listen, I've been kind of one of the ways I've been building up for this show to get people even more interested than usual is I've often kind of joked, she sees dead people. So you literally do see dead people, yes?
I do.
Yeah.
I definitely do. And it started, but you know what? They're not all bad.
No, absolutely. This is just fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful things, but out here, that's what there's some amazing spirits here. There's Native American spirits, there's the animal spirits, there's just some good spirits, but then there's the bad. There's the bad stuff. And so what happened was, on that year of 2020, it ended up that basically all of my family ended up becoming over here with us. We have little houses. We have like a tiny house. Then we ended up making another tiny house. And that's part of something God wants me to do too, is to create these little tiny dwellings and put protection on them. But either way, here's what happened is, all of a sudden, instead of me being gone at work all day, or, not here all the time, we were all here. We were all here, and we could not leave. And it escalated to the point where, it was after the paranormal show was here, and they left, and they said, you need to leave immediately. And we're like, how can we leave? And so we didn't. And then they said, basically, I was going to be dead. And so it was a bad year. It was a horrible beginning to the new year of 2020. And then, the other thing occurred where all of a sudden everything's over, right? And we're all here. So what happened was, the increase happened where, this shadow man literally one day I saw him outside the front door, and I'm like, I thought it was my son. And I was talking to him and everything. It was like just before dark, and we had gotten home from Sedona, and I was looking and talking to somebody in the window, which is it's an open door with glass. And I'm like, why don't you, why did you not just come in? And I go to open the door. Whoops, da 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 da.
Hold that thought. There's a shadow man at the break.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second part of today's Kev Baker Show with our brand new guest. And oh boy, is she absolutely knocking it out of the park so far. Her name is Mercedez Lucke-Benedict. We'll be going back to her in just a moment because we have had our Thursday night amigo. He's airdropped into the broadcast. He heard there was good woo on the go. Scott Lopez, man. First segment, we've got this wonderful lady here who from a young age can, get a little notion for things beyond the veil, the kind of stuff we talk about. 2 horrendous car crashes, and that seemed to almost enhance that superpower that we kind of talk about, the clairvoyance, hearing things, seeing things, feeling it. And now with us spending more time at home in the past 18 months, we were just getting into how shadow men are appearing. So before we get back into that, brother, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. And yes, my woodar was going off, and I could tell
like
there was woo in the vicinity. And then I would have been here earlier, but I'm running a little fashionably late today. But no, this sounds awesome, and this sounds like one of those things that you kind of commonly hear with a lot of these people who end up kind of becoming opened up to seeing things on the other side, right? That usually there's some kind of a traumatic incident of some kind, in the case of Mercedes here, car accident, 2 of them, right? And then, I've spoken, quite a few times about my brother, right? How he sees shadow people and things like that, and we have these strange kind of paranormal. The strange paranormal activity that kind of randomly occurs around my house from time to time. And, he didn't experience any of that until after, unfortunately he was damaged by the meningitis vaccine, right? He got the meningitis shot, and then he ended up getting meningitis from it. And it was after that he really started having a lot of these experiences with like shadow people and stuff like that. But it's not just limited to him. I mean, there's been other people, even outside of our family, who have had experiences here. So to me, it just seems like it opened him up to what was already going on here. And me personally, I don't really have too many experiences. It doesn't really affect me too much here, but my mom has had some experiences on occasion, and so and then of course my brother, who had he's like the main, it revolves around him a lot, and then my other brother has had a couple of things happen as well. So I mean, but nah, it's
Ooh, deep woo, brother, deep woo. Yeah. So Mercedes, we got to the break and we were getting to the shadow men. I'm gonna hand it back to you. Myself and Scott will be full of questions. I can only imagine the interrogation you're going to get after this, Mercedes. In a good way, of course, in a good way. So the shadow man, tell us what was happening. What's been going on?
Yeah, this is funny. It's almost like one of those old radio shows where you end and they do the commercial and you have to come back now. And it's like the highlight point. So basically what I was seeing was a ghost or spirit. He's the shadow man. That's what we have called him now. And when I went to open the door, I just opened the door and it completely disappeared. And that one that one was the first time I actually like he was that bold to come up and do that. That was the boldest I felt at that time. Except for the times where he would be in our bedroom, standing by the bed, or scaring people outside in the other cabin. He literally would scare people all the time. He's everywhere. He was everywhere. And so that one I called and I got my special, we all did a cleansing. We all got together in the family. We went through the whole house. We blessed the whole house. We went through every door. We didn't know about all the doors at the time. Like Bill has shown me something about the doors. We went around the house with salt. We put sage. We used all of our things that we do. And that was a pretty scary one. The thing with us, like you're saying, Scotty, yeah, you know what? They can manipulate things. The increase here was crazy with footsteps. That I'd heard them before. I mean, it sounds like an elephant walking through, and there was nobody there. And I swear, I thought there would be people here. Footsteps.
Wow!
Stuff in the mirrors.
Wow, this is amazing, right?
Screaming. Yeah, the screams outside. I heard just 6 weeks ago. I heard I was standing there. I heard a little girl, Pierce, screaming, literally right next to my fence. We have 5 acres of property, but we're on a lot of acreage. It's a big ranch kind of thing, and I do have my grandkids over there, and but they were not outside. So I went to look, and then at that same time, I heard a growl. I've never heard that before. This was 6 weeks ago, I think, or maybe 8 weeks ago. It's time's flying. When I heard a growl, but not like any kind of growl I'd ever heard, and there's nobody screaming. So since then, we've heard screams through the night, different times. We've even tried to record them the past few weeks. So I don't exactly know what that is, but the increase in children's voices was a big deal, where they're laughing, and there's no children in the house, but there's like you can hear children, or you'd hear people say, "Hey," but there's nobody there. And
oh my goodness!
One time,
hang on.
Whoa! I know, Mike. I'm getting like chills.
No, I've got chills, right? Because I'm hearing. What is one of my creepiest things in the world, as Scott will definitely vouch for. When it's small children, when it's little girls, and then, listen, that sounded like something tried to lure you out there, because who isn't going to go outside and make sure there isn't a little girl in trouble? And then the minute you get out there, you're confronted with something growling at you.
My mom and my brother had a very, very similar experience, so that's why I was my face was kind of like going, because our property is very similar in acreage. We got about 4 or 5 acres of land, and we're kind of out, and yeah, my mom and my brother were outside one time, and they heard what appeared to be like children laughing or screaming, or that that sound of like when they're playing and they're getting real excited and they're doing that, like that high-pitched scream or something along that lines. And they were like, "Whoa, what the heck was that? Did you hear that?" And we have coyotes and stuff around here, and we can. They have a very weird sound. Like if you're not accustomed to hearing a coyote, you would think that it was like a maniacal kind of laugh or a scream or something like that. But this was something different. So I don't know, that's creepy stuff, man. And
what's interesting? What's interesting is we kind of framed this conversation around an uptick in activity. And although it might not be at the same time period this has happened, this is very similar phenomena, Mercedes, that you're experiencing, Scott. And then you have to start asking yourself, well, how many other people around the world are experiencing similar things right now? So I was sorry to interrupt you there, but I had to get rid of the creepy goosebumps when we started talking about haunted little girl voices. So I'm going to hand it back to you now, Mercedes. And
Yeah, and you know what? I researched that. I love to research, and I researched, and I saw articles from different cities, and even a couple of different countries that were saying that there was an increase in paranormal activity during this time, and so it's to me, you know, it was pretty bad because there was a point where, you know, I work to do this. This is part of my work. And I was doing this. I help people, but, you know, a lot of my other things is being a therapist, craniosacral and different therapies. But I do work as this, you know, out of what has occurred here, I became somebody that could help others. And so it became very, very disheartening to me that I couldn't stop it. In fact, it became like I just go ahead, because I was getting to the point where I didn't know what to do, you know, because when they're here, it's not just, oh, boo, I'm going to scare you. No, they can go after your animals. They go after our animals, and they did go after. And the reason I know is because I can see, or the coincidences line up to where it's like, oh, really? We just did a clearing, and then the next thing you know, the dog becomes very ill or very sick just within seconds. You know, that doesn't just happen. That's not a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence anymore.
No, we don't do coincidence on here.
Yeah.
Dirty word.
And so, another thing for sure that occurred was within the last, right before in 2019 and in 2020, I can see things like I think they're on different planes of existence, because I've had to go and ask for help with this from my mentors and other just amazing people that I trust, where I can see, like you said, I see dead people. Well, I don't just see one dead person. I see a lot of dead people. I have seen them since the beginning of the car crashes. And that's when I used to see them through a veil. And it took several years of being a practitioner. And it was almost like it's almost like, Scotty, Kev, like a video game. You know, we all play the video games, or I don't really, but I know my kids did. And you get to the level, and then you finally get there, and then you go to the next level, you know, but you have to, like, you know, get your head hit 100 times or whatever.
Yeah, you got to kind of level up along the way. Yeah, we get you.
Yeah.
We're like big kids. We still play these games.
Like
don't worry.
Yeah, it's like a video game. You just go to the next level. Well, that's the next level. You know, all of a sudden I started to see my first ones were spirit animals. Like, it was like a movie where they literally just walk right up to you as if you're watching a movie. A wolf. The first one was a white horse. The second one was a dolphin. And it was like a real occurrence to me. And then the ones that became, so they almost Spirit made it really nice for me for a while there with my clients. I'd be in my place, in my sacred place at work, which I was for 14 years. And these amazing animals started coming to help me. And then the native spirits of like Native Americans would come and do medicine with the person and me. And that's what I first learned. Well, then I met my now husband. And that's when it turned. It changed. It changed from that to others, which is part of the relationship between Joe and I, has been this battling this dark force, which at first he had no clue really, even though he worked for a haunted attraction company is what he worked for originally. And so he already had his own baggage with him, and he owned this land. So my deal was to come in here, and all of a sudden it's like boom, like a fireworks everywhere. But so what I see is I would see hundreds of people walking. I would see like monks walking. I would see horses running with Native Americans in groups, large groups. And so then that's when the veil started to leap.
Now, Mercedes, can I ask, Do you think
Yeah.
you were seeing them now in this time here, or do you think you were getting almost like a vision of the past? Does that make
No,
sense?
That's such a great subject because part of this deal that I can do, I didn't plan on it, called remote viewing. It happened to me just in a session where all of a sudden I am catapulted up in spirit and taken somewhere else. And like I can almost be flying. The first times were so traumatic to me, but it's like all of a sudden you are put down into another time that is existing at this moment.
Oh, no,
Okay.
now we're
So like
talking.
you go, yeah, I'm talking like, it's, there was a time where I wouldn't even talk about this. In fact, the doctor I worked for, we were a real medical practice. So we weren't really allowed to go woo. We weren't allowed to talk woo. And that was the cutest name because they called it woo. And I'm like, what are you not calling woo? I didn't. So I love that you guys call it woo.
I should have trademarked that term. I knew it. Nah, I'm only joking. I stole it off Cliff High. I stole it myself, so it's okay.
Yeah, so I was told, Mercedes, don't do the woo, don't do so much woo, So I had to be a real medical person, but then I was so blessed to have these amazing clients, like monks from Tibet and things like that would come to us. And so I got to experience all these different types of people and their spirituality from A to Z, right? And so, and I would see these, and that's how I learned because what I would see, people were seeing too. They were seeing it. They were experiencing the same thing. So that gave me like, okay, this isn't fake. This is real. And like all my teachers were like really amazing. God just blessed me with these amazing people that are very, 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 very good people.
And so just listening to you there, though, I'll get Scott your comment on this. But that's really important what Mercedes said there, because if there's nobody else around you that really doesn't know what you're talking about, then it must be really hard, Scotty boy, to differentiate from what you're seeing from imagination.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. in a lot of cases, people who have these, these gifts or these abilities or whatever, if nobody around you believes you and stuff like that, a lot of these people start thinking, am I crazy? I mean, I'm seeing all this stuff, but nobody else is seeing this. So is there something wrong with me? Am I losing my mind? And then, it doesn't help, when you have people also chiming in saying, oh, you're probably just seeing things, or it's just your imagination, or, then they kind of reinforce that, and you're like, oh no, maybe there is something wrong with me. But it like Mercedes said, I mean, it helps to have, people that are able to understand what you're going through, and other people that have experienced it as well. And then once you find out, oh, well, I'm not alone in this, there's other people who are having these, these same experiences and dealing with the same things, it definitely does help. So, yeah.
It's really important as far as the story goes. I call it a story. What happened was, because I had the credentials, I had years of dealing with people, and the work was, I mean, I have a good reputation. So when I met my husband and I started coming here, and that's when the trickery began. So I was used to dealing with, like, I don't know, maybe more stable spirits. I don't know. But when I came here, isn't that weird? But yeah, the trickery began, and they started playing, like Bill will say, conquer and divide, or what is that? Yeah, they separate and they divide you to conquer. So there was so many things happening, and I would see stuff, and then Joe wasn't seeing it, and it was like, really? And so finally, after a few years of like, well, I'm just, this is what I'm seeing. So when they came out for that main investigation, well, along with all the other shaman and medicine men and Ho'oponopono, different things like that, they would come out, all these people, and they would verify what was going on here. But when the actual big investigation, I call it the big investigation, happened, well, then I'm like, thank you so much, because it almost destroyed my marriage. And it was hell. It was hell dealing with this, and it was heartbreaking. And so, and then at the end they say, well, we can't fix it. You need to get the hell out of there. So we have our shop, we have our work. It's his work is here, and so we're like, how can we do that? So then we're trying to do that, and then the big pandemic hit. So anyway, that's when it became, you're gonna fight. You're not gonna run. And what was very disappointing to me was that the reaction of some of the people I don't even know off of that show, they were just, I learned a big lesson. I wasn't expecting that. They were like, why aren't they leaving? And they would make the meanest comments, and I'm like, you don't even know the truth. Nobody knows the truth here. And so that was a really hard to mix it in with the 2020, horrible that everybody endured. But it made me stronger. It made my husband and I work together, and we started to really do this thing. We made it mandatory, Lord's Prayer. Oh, and that's another thing. After all dealing with all these different types of cultures and spiritual things, I'm very much Native American oriented. I do the cleansing and blessing that way, and I do sage, and I use my crystals, and I work that way. Well, I wasn't bringing in Jesus, and we kept hearing about, you need to really bring Jesus in for forgiveness, which forgiveness for Joe, forgiveness for me, forgiveness for the trickery that we were being tricked and created into these puppets almost by a lot of the words and actions that we said and did. And so I learned about that, and I started reaching for the Bible and we both did. So we brought in the Lord's Prayer, and mandatory at our front gate. Now, not all of us here do that, I don't think, at the front gate, but we do it. The main ones of us, I believe, do it. We stop at our front gate, we do the Lord's Prayer before entering, and then we drive down the long driveway. And when we get out of our car, we have a special, and we have little areas that Joe put crystals and like a square. So it's blessed, that area. And then we do our Lord's Prayer again before going up the steps and going into our house. And there's several little houses here. And I know most of us definitely do the Lord's Prayer. And that, when we started doing the Lord's Prayer, I think it was around July or August, it was made mandatory because of what was going on the property. We all of a sudden became, the frequency of this place started to stabilize. Literally, it started to stabilize. People started getting happy again. People were starting to kind of communicate again. And, because they can mess with you, and they start making people angry at each other, I believe. And, all this while we're calling in medicine men and shaman and all kinds of people to come out and help when there was a problem. And but it started to stabilize with the Lord's Prayer. And it was, again, toward the end of the year, it boomeranged. It's like, okay, the family is actually happy. Well, let's not let that happen, okay? So then some big event happened, which I was forewarned, and I believe that it really just separated my family down the middle here again, and it was just very heartbreaking to me. So that's when we decided to, when I went reaching for an exorcist. I had tried that about 2 years prior, because 3 years prior, because I felt as if I couldn't even move out in the cabin area where I had my work and different things in my music room. I'm a musician, singer. So I felt as if I was taken over. I had to call my husband. I said, we need to get somebody out here to help me, because I couldn't even get up. I felt like I was paralyzed, like something had come over me, and it was in the cabin. And so that was a very, very scary event. But we did not. I looked for an exorcist at that point, but I didn't. Everything seemed to kind of get better, so we didn't have to do that. But that's when I reached out and on Facebook, and I said, does anybody know an exorcist? And that's when I got a call or a message about Bill Bean, and I had never heard of him. I don't have TV, so I even though I love all those shows and I used to watch them all the time for the last 6 years, I keep the TV away. I don't have TV. Well, actually longer. I don't do TV. We don't do that. If we watch anything, it's a DVD or something. But we pretty much live a very quiet life here, and have special frequencies that work with us, and we don't bring in outside frequencies. We try to keep it, nature, and try to
Mercedes,
keep
hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Okay.
1 hour down, 1 hour to go, and Bill Bean is about to enter the story. Oh, I told you this was going to be a good one. We will be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 today on the Kev Baker Show on Truth Frequency Radio, tfrlive.com. Remember to tell everyone about the network. We've got our own chat room at tfrlive.com/chat as well, so you can hang out over there. Don't forget, me and Scotty Boy will be back with Nacy tomorrow for Freaky Friday. Nikola Tesla, it's on the agenda. I'm feeling a little bit of the Philadelphia experiment as well, Scott. All that good jazz.
I'm liking it. And, yesterday we had our first, storms of the year, and the sky was electrified. I mean, we didn't get any rain, but
it's almost as if it was meant to be, Scott, like a Nikola Tesla sky.
It was. So yes, it'll be very, very good. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I always love some Nikola Tesla talk. I could talk about that man for hours and hours and hours.
Sounds good to me, bro. Sounds good to me.
I love that stuff too.
Well, you see, I tell you, it's all going on here now. Listen, we've got a lot of listeners out there listening on TalkStream Live as well. Paranormal app, I think, is another one that we go out on. Big shout out to everyone who tunes in. Maybe you're catching this over on YouTube later in the day. Big shout out to all of you as well. Please, please, please remember to tell everyone about TFR. Remember to tell everyone about the Kev Baker Show as well, or Dave will get very, very angry. So with that said, let us get back into it, because we've got Mercedez Lucke-Benedict here with us today. Clairvoyant, Claire Audio, a whole heap of other things, and we're getting into her story, but I want to dive right back in to where we were, because we were just about to hear about how Mercedez and her husband got introduced to Bill Bean, and we all know Bill Bean around these parts. So Mercedez, back to you.
Yeah, and so Scotty was talking about, how it is normal, or people do tend to argue or fight, or there's conflict during paranormal attacks. Well, okay, so how do you know it is that? Okay, so people go, well, how does she know they're just not arguing or whatever? Well, okay, at the same time that's happening, they're seeing a little girl inside the cabin. The little boy's scared to death, my grandson. My older son is in here in the house, and the doors are opening, and he couldn't get out of his room. The door's shut. Someone's holding it. I see doors opening and closing that are locked. all these things were happening during this time of conflict, which makes everybody even more upset and more tense because we've already gone through this for so many years, and now all these people are here experiencing it at the same time we are. And that's when it just, it boomed into where I almost felt like I can't even do this anymore. I was getting sick. I was becoming very ill. I started having to go to the doctor and get medical testing. And, all of a sudden my body became the thing that they were attacking. And that I knew already before the paranormal show came, but she verified it. And so it was up to me to try to stop that and get help myself and all that. And I'm much healthier now, and I am on the mend, and I'm doing, so that's really good. Thank God. So what happened though was around that time in November, it was late November, and I started reaching out. What do you think? Does anybody know? Tell me something. Somebody messaged me out of the blue that they saw our family on the dead files. And we signed a waiver. I'm not really supposed to, I don't know what I'm supposed to say about them, but I said their name. So anyway, I heard, they said, look, why don't you look into Bill Bean? Find out, look at him. And I'm like, who's that? And so I started to find out who he was. And also found Dave Schrader from Darkness Radio. Yeah. I reached out to Dave actually first, and he sent me to another person, which was very nice. And then, but I just thought, no, that's not the right one, because my guidance I have to ask to my guidance. They have to make the first call because I connect with God. So I have to do what God says for me to do. That's my work, and that's how I try to do everything by God. And so God, or my spirit guides through God, said, nope, you got to research this guy. So I ended up finding out, okay, this man is really saying a lot of religious stuff, and boy, okay, I think we need that here, because what I had found, so another thing we've got going on is I've been researching all this time to find out what the truth is here, which I love how you guys talk about research, but I have dug and found articles, and I found history, and I found archaeology. I found what is here and why is it here, from over 5,000 years ago history. And so I'm working with people on that as well right now because of all the research I've done. And so when I started to read about Bill Bean, and then I decided to reach out to Bill Bean, I was given his certain prayers before I actually talked to the team. And so I immediately started to read those prayers, and I felt better because I knew that this was something God had wanted me to do, is to find somebody that could battle what I believe is a satanic ritual site, which is, I found the history on it. I don't even want to say the names of the people because they scare me. I don't like to say their names. I believe that it was way back in history that there was a satanic curse, and it was confirmed through the people on the dead files that there was a really bad curse on this land. And also my research found that there's history of this place being cursed by townspeople, by people around here. And the lore of what happened. I went to look for the lore. Okay. So anyway, I decided to email Bill Bean, and then I got a hold of his wonderful assistant, Melinda. And lo and behold, this woman, I just connected with her like I can't even believe. I don't even know how. Out of the blue, this woman, Melinda, began helping me. And I did something for her. I helped her with something that I found out. And it is like I gave her this information, and so somehow we bonded in a weird way, and it was really nice. But so she started sending me more prayers that Bill used. So me being an avid research person and trying to figure out what to do, I just began absorbing them. I began doing everything. I began doing the prayers where I kneel at the bed at night. He says to kneel in the morning and kneel at night and do the Lord's Prayer. Well, I do that. I do that every night. And if I don't do it, I feel as if I feel like I better get up and do it. When I started doing that, the property and everything started to kind of clear. And I thought, wow, okay, I haven't even met this man, and I'm using his prayers. And then I started to things started kind of shifting here. And this was going on into December. And then things started getting kind of rocky again, that things were coming back. It wasn't perfect. The prayers weren't enough. And so I began to reach out more, saying, well, maybe, we could have him call. But I kept putting it off, thinking, no, we can handle it. Give me more prayers. We'll do it. And we'll do this and we'll do that, on top of everything else. But it began getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And then it would get better. And that's when I started listening to the shows, and I started trying to figure out who is Bill Bean. And I watched all the YouTubes, and I watched what he was doing, and I thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? Can we really do that? I didn't know. I was a little nervous because even though I clear other people's houses, I thought, well, what in the world is he going to find here? And he wouldn't be able to come here. And so I thought, it's not going to work. He's not going to physically be able to come here. And that's, I wanted somebody to physically come back again, because it's been too dangerous. It's been too crazy. I didn't think it would work. And, but as it began just getting worse, a little bit, this and that, was happening. And I finally said, okay, let's set it up. So we did set it up. It ended up being last week. And let me tell you, right before that day, everything was pretty smooth for the week prior. I was like, okay, this is a pretty smooth week going on here. But the day of that Saturday, all hell broke loose here that day. There was arguing. There was just it was just out of the blue. I didn't feel good. Like, every technical things were going wrong. Everything was going wrong on that particular day. And by the time we actually got to speak to him, I was so frazzled. I was trying to set this whole thing up, and and it just, up to the second we got with Bill on the phone, it was chaos for that whole 24 hours almost. And he just got on the phone with us, and he started talking, and my husband, Joe, had never really met him, and or didn't know much about him, but I'd been sharing things about Bill with him through the shows and through the prayers. So he did know of him and who he was. And he was, I don't know if he really knew what was going to happen. We've been blessed. A lot of times we've had a lot of people try to help, and they've done a good job, but it hasn't gone completely away. So here comes Bill, and I tell you what, as he started to talk and go take us through that, I could feel it. I started feeling circles around me. I started to feel this heaviness lifting out of me. I felt, I didn't realize, but my other son had actually stepped into the room we have a lot of animals, and we were trying to keep everybody under control and in the house at the same time. But he actually felt things happening in him too. Joe, I mean, we were just going through the prayers. We were having to go through what happened, and it was really miraculous. It really was, and I felt so secure with Bill because he took us through the whole house. I didn't know what he was going to do. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, listening. Yeah. We're here.
Okay.
We're just listening. I'm just listening intently, man, because this is some good stuff.
It's a good story. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, nobody's here. Okay.
We're all here. Don't you worry. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know we're going to be talking on warrior mode, which is just so great. We're going to talk on that. But I didn't know what he was going to do, right? But he took us through. We made a special oil, and he helped us through the whole thing. And he was just like, I felt like he was almost like a family member. He became that close feeling to me. Like he was not going to let us, he wasn't going to let it go. He wasn't going to give up. And he could feel what was here. He knew it. I mean, he and I had never talked before. I had only gone through Melinda. And so he knew bits and pieces of the story, but not anything really, not a lot. And so, and of course, Joe, we're both right here together. And he, after we get that done, he went through our house, and we went to the shop. We went through every room with him. It was amazing how he took us through, and we got rid of the stuff that was here. And I could feel it. I could feel his presence.
Well, let me jump in there, Mercedes. And wow, thank you for sharing that. But Scott, I know exactly what she's talking about because of on time I had to get Bill to give me a deliverance on air. I wasn't ready for what was about to happen. I thought it was just going to be a prayer and, okay, move along. But like Mercedes says, like we started to get into it, and you could feel it, dude. Now, listen, people can only take my word for that, and you can only take Mercedes' word for that. But Scott, time and again, people have reached out and thanked me for putting Bill Bean on their radar. They've been people that's needed somebody like that. And nobody's ever came to me and said, that Bill Bean, snake oil, he's a shyster, that one. Never happened, dude. Never happened.
I've been on a few times when Bill's been on with you, and there's Bill's the real deal. He's the real deal, and he's definitely one of these gifted individuals, or he's had this gift blessed upon him, to do this kind of work and do this stuff. And it's interesting, how Mercedes was saying, we wanted him to be here in person, right? But really, I mean, he's with you in spirit, right? And whenever you're speaking to him, whether it be over the, like a Skype call or, over the phone or whatever, you're still connected with that person. You're hearing them talk, you're hearing their voice, you're connected with them on a frequency level, and they don't necessarily have to be there in person to do the work that they need to do.
And Scott, even add to that, Bill never takes credit. He talks about his warrior angels, so he's literally just sending them to the location, like you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And, when Mercedes was bringing up, like invoking the name of Jesus Christ, invoking, the Lord's Prayer, she spoke about, how she's talked to people from many different religions and cultures and everything like that, and never thought about, like incorporating, the Lord's Prayer, or invoking the name Jesus Christ. But, just doing that, I would say on a frequency level. I mean, you're putting out that energy, just the energy of the Lord's Prayer, of evoking the name Jesus Christ, and you're bringing about that vibe, that, or whatever you want to call it, Christ energy, or whatever. It's just another tool in the arsenal, I guess you could say, and it doesn't take away from any of these other religions or any of their other practices or whatever. But I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, right, with the dealing with the battle between darkness and light, you've got to use every tool available, right? And if it comes from Christianity, if it comes from Buddhism, if it comes from the Muslim religion, it doesn't matter. If it's something that works, if it's something that is invoking, that to help you battle these dark entities, then yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt it has an effect.
You know what's so interesting too, because as I was studying Bill, I realized that there are similarities to the things that he does, which I do what's called a universal law enforcement investigation, where I use a team of spirits, or they use them. It's almost like you go to court or you have a police team. They're spiritual agents of God. So I started to hear him speak in the same way, in the same frame of mind that I've been taught through one of my greatest teachers has taught me. And I was like, okay, even Bill, he'll say an agent of God. And I was like, wow, okay. I had not heard anybody using the same terminologies that I had been using for the last 3 years. And that really made me sit up and think, and because all of a sudden he's not just a minister, but you guys are talking about things that I believe in. I believe in the things like, the bird, what is it? The one, the bird guy. What's that guy?
Mothman.
The one that, the Mothman. Sorry, Travis. The Mothman.
Oh, don't be sorry.
And
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. It's sometimes though.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Yeah, sometimes it's the Mothman.
So I mean, he's not just a minister that, like the normal. He's actually. I believe in these things that come from other places that are here with us at this time, and they are coming more because of what's happening. So here we got Bill doing this, and I'm like, wow. And the night before I messaged him, and he reached out to me. I was so thankful, because that's when I started really getting really antsy, was the night before. And I said, Bill, I don't know why can I not do this myself? Why? I mean, if this is what I do for others, how come I can't do it here? And I was upset, and I just poured my heart out to him. Sweet guy. I didn't even know him. And he messaged me back with the sweetest message. And he said, this is the one thing. This is like a test for me that, the reason I couldn't do it here, but I can help somebody else, and wherever they're at in a different cities, country, or whatever. And he said, because this is a block pretty much put on you, and it's you, and it's about me and Joe. It's a block put on us to stop us from, doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that's why I wasn't able to get past that. And, sometimes you have to have help. And God really is a big test. This is a huge test that we had to go through, and it led to Bill Bean and spiritual warrior and warrior mode, and it led to that. I've always been called a spiritual warrior for years, and I thought, wow, that's really neat. But I didn't know there were others.
It definitely sounds like, this was something that was destined to happen. This was meant to be. You followed your gut, or what I would say, or actually what you said, followed your guides. You followed wherever it felt like God was going to take you, and it led you to Bill Bean, which is very, very interesting, right? Because you know. But yeah, it just sounds like it was
Last
destined to happen.
resort.
So listen,
and you know what?
now Mercedes, I know it's only been a week, but in the week or so since you have like really been working with Bill, I mean, has there been
Yes.
a marked difference in the activity around you?
Oh my God! Let me just say that the day after, I all of a sudden, and I've been pretty pain free and pretty healthy. I was hit like a heart, like my heart center. I call it heart chakra, heart center. Felt as if I had a knife stabbing in me, and I couldn't get rid of it because, I mean, I can usually get rid of any pain I have by what I do. I could not get rid of this pain. And so I asked, is this coming from me? Is this coming from outside sources? I'm getting that it is leaving me. It is leaving me. So I was in so much pain, and I barely could sleep that night. And then the next day I felt like a truck hit me. Like, I know when I work on people, and I always tell them I have a 3-day window. I ask them to take a bath, do certain rituals so they don't have to go through this horrible like release that can happen with energy. Well, I really was too preoccupied with all the stuff going on. I didn't ask Bill, like, what happens after? Will anything affect me? I was too in the moment. Well, he reached out and he said, yeah. He said, you've got a few days where you're going to go through a lot. It's like almost maybe the whole week, or I can't remember his words, but I'm like, okay, thank you. Because, yeah. And so the next 2 days, I couldn't even hardly, I had no energy. I was like, I did not feel good. And then
it's like
yesterday,
a flushing. It's like a spiritual detox is what it's like.
Yeah, it was the biggest spiritual. I mean, I've had them before, but it was I felt like I was just literally, I don't know. I was very sick. I didn't think I could even do the show. I was so worried.
Mercedes, hold that thought, because we're about to go to the break. And then when we come back on the other side, we'll be getting into more of the clairvoyancy you have, some of the stuff you work on. And I want to hear more about this skill you've got of drawing the images that you see of the actual spirits we're talking about, because this is fascinating. Now, the website you want for Mercedes, people, is Mercedes Is it Mercedes Lucky? No, it's not. In fact, give me 2 seconds, folks. I will get it for you when we come back from the break. Don't go anywhere. How rude of me. That's okay. I'll have a word with myself during the break. Don't go anywhere. Final segment on today's Kev Baker show with Scotty Lopez here and our very special guest, Mercedez Lucke-Benedict. Now, you can check out her website. Mercedes, let people know where they can go to check out your work.
Okay, I sure will. So it's called mybeautifulspirit.com. So it's mybeautifulspirit.com. My teacher always says, Mercedes, ask your spirit. So I'm like, what? So originally I was like, what? So, what does your spirit say? So that's the highest part of me connected to God, the part of me that's with God, creator of all things, God that beats my heart. I am that part of me. And so that's like, it's the most beautiful part of all of us is our spirit. That's the original thing, and that's why I call it mybeautifulspirit.com, because she is my connection to God, and I am that. So that's why you can also find it on Mercedez Lucke-Benedict. So Mercedes with a Z, Lucky with an E, and Benedict. Mercedez Lucke-Benedict.
I like it.
Yeah,
Scotty, that's it, right?
Fun name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It very is. It goes with your very bubbly personality. I love it. Absolutely love it. But Scott, it's very true. We're not really physical beings. We're spiritual beings that were here playing about in this biological spacesuit to experience this physical realm for whatever reason, right? But at the end of the day, we're all spirit, right?
Oh yeah,
We
so
are.
we're all energy beings that are just piloting around this flesh suit until we go to the next level, like Mercedes says. And yay, you know, sometimes it takes a couple times to get past that level, right? You got to fall down the pitfalls, you got to lose a few men or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you said, get bonked in the head or whatever. It's not a speed run every time, Kev. It's not a speed run that you just make it through the very first time. And so
Sometimes I wish it was. Sometimes it'd be
yeah,
better that way.
sometimes I wish it was a speed run, man. I'm like, man, let's get on to the next level here. But
So listen, Mercedes, talk to me and Scotty and the audience here about what it's like to see spirits, and even, you know, furthermore, or moving on from that, what's it like to be able to draw them? I mean, talk to us about this ability that you have, please, if you don't mind, Mercedes, because me and Scotty boy, we want to hear more about this. This sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. So I just want to clear up, though, that, you know, after the Bill Bean thing, I started feeling much better yesterday, and today I feel like
Nice.
amazing. And
Good.
so, I mean, I feel like you really made some major things with me. Feels really good. So, okay, so about the spirit drawings and the question was, what about the seeing spirits, and then what about drawing the spirits, right?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
I mean, is it something like,
Mhm.
I mean, is it something you can turn on or off? I mean, does it happen all the time, being able to see them everywhere? How does it kind of manifest itself?
Right. Okay, so how it actually originated was with session work. And literally, I would be with people and I was in a really magical place for a long time. And I was given I was just basically in a state of prayer most all day. And so I was easily able to just go into these places and literally deal with the spirits and the people that I'm working on and communicate that way. And so then a lot of times I get, so medical intuitive things like that. So they would give me messages for the person. And so I'd quickly get up and I'd go jot down a note, or I would make sure I drew the image I saw. And they're just sketches. Like, I can paint and I can draw and I can do all that. So basically it's like a doodle or a sketch is how it originated. And I would quickly draw what I saw, and then I would come back, and then usually during an hour session, sometimes I'd have to get up like 8 to 10 times and just make sure I could catch that image. And then when I started to share that with clients or the people, they're like, oh my God, because they go, that's exactly what I saw, or that's what I was thinking I was seeing, or I've seen that before. You know, that's where the verification over year after year, it became like they'd seen it, they'd heard it, they'd felt it, they've experienced it. So we were on a connected path. Like, it's like, wow, okay. So the sketching, sometimes it's downright scary. My original first bad, scary one happened one day with Joe. And that was when I first pretty much met him, and I was just kind of dating him. And there was that shadow man. I obviously was the one I was drawing. I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was kind of hanging out between him and wherever he was at the time, following to my area. And so I'll never forget that. I have those drawings on my website. And they're simple, very simple drawings. And yeah, it's pretty neat to be able to look and say, wow, okay, that's what I saw. I recently was working with somebody from Maine, and I would love to go to this place and do an investigation. I would love to go to this place. I'm not going to say where it was, but she is living in a place that had old, like 1800s on up, and I was able to just go in and find. So these people that are haunting her today lived back then. Okay, so they're still present. And so a lot of times I hear on your show where, like, how do we do that? How do we go back in time? Well, they're making the time machine things you guys are talking about. Well, to me, the past, the present, and the future are connecting. And then I don't know, but like when I go into my sessions and all of a sudden I end up somewhere in a different lifetime dealing with what happened in another lifetime, and I can see that and work with that, and I can come back and draw it. To me, that is like, I don't know if anybody else is doing that or not. I've been doing this for, I don't know, maybe now, I've been drawing this for like at least since I've known Joe. So that's at least 6 years I've been drawing these images.
Well, Mercedes, I mean, to me, this sounds very, very similar to, what we hear when we talk about like remote viewing and astral projection and things along that lines, right? And I mean, we obviously know that the government was very heavily invested in remote viewing. And so, these individuals exist out there who have this ability. And like you were saying, right, time doesn't seem to... there like is no past, present, or future whenever you're operating within this realm, whatever we want to call it, whether it be like the Akashic records or, to me, I think that there's a lot of connections between, what is going on with these paranormal these paranormal incidents and like quantum. There's something going on a weird quantum level, I think, where we're seeing these dimensions, if you will, or these timelines or whatever, phasing in and out, and you're able to see things from the past, right now, and possibly things from the future. Time doesn't really exist in this quantum state. And so if you have the ability to tap into that, right, if you use that warm, wet quantum computer that's located behind your forehead, essentially, I mean, I guess if we were all able to tap into that ability, I mean, we would all have the ability to, in essence, time travel, right? Because if you're viewing something from the past, or you're seeing images, or somebody is coming to you, a spirit or whatever from the past, you've essentially time traveled, into that time, or vice versa. So yeah, I think you're correct. Time doesn't really exist when you're in that realm or in that plane.
There is no time.
It's so fascinating. It's just fascinating. And another subject I think was interesting is you guys talk a lot about is water and portals. Well, that's one thing I've seen here since the beginning. Portals in the ground. It's my mind's eye, but I've drawn them. I started drawing them when I first got here. But I see portals that travel through the ground, and so we were always trying to get people to help us clear those portals, understand the portals. And I believe that the portals and the water, there's water channels, another part of the history, canals that were part of this history 5,000 years ago, canals from the Hohokam. And I believe that we are under an underground water place, plus we've got the portals. We've got a missile silo. We've got different missile silos around us, which are giant portals. And I believe that all of it, I believe all of it is just
sounds just like Northern Kansas, man.
Yep, Arizona, North Kansas. It sounds like it's pretty much the same, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we got missile silos and farmers' fields and all that good stuff.
Wow.
And the water thing is very interesting. Yeah, the water thing is interesting because we've talked about many times that a lot of these paranormal hotspots seem to be around a source of water, like either an underground river or a natural spring or something along that lines. And here on our property we have like a gully that water drains down, it goes by the house, kind of like a little creek if it starts raining and stuff like that. So I mean this is just more kind of
everything, the water energy.
Yeah,
and they
it does.
travel.
It really does.
Energy travels with the water, and then you got to think about the spirit of each of these elements. But then we get into like that's a whole different. That's more Native American. But I believe there's a spirit to each of these, and I believe that there is a fight between good versus evil. And I believe it's right here on the property, and I think it expands into like even your area where it is the whole world. Like your little area and my little area. They're the universe. They're the whole world. We're all going through this good versus evil past, coming up and pushing out to the present to make a better healing place. It's just so phenomenal. Ah!
There you go.
There you go.
Scott, like you said in the Skype chat earlier on, it sounds like Stull Cemetery. That gateway to hell that you've got like next door to you. It sounds similar to that, dude. What's going on at this location, right?
Yeah, I mean, Stoll is like 15 minutes away, and I don't know if Mercedes ever heard me tell the story of Stoll or has ever researched it or anything. But yeah, literally like 15 minutes from my house, there's a very, very small town called Stoll, and supposedly one of the 9 gateways to hell located around the world is located at Stoll Cemetery. And
I think the best thing to say about it is the Pope wouldn't even fly over the location.
It's very, very true.
Yeah.
Pope John Paul II specifically asked that his plane be rerouted around northeast Kansas because he said it was cursed ground. So yeah. It's interesting.
Tell you guys, so that's so interesting because I'm going to look into this. But one thing they found through the evidence, real evidence here on the property, is that there was a double murder. There was 2 people died on this property. They were murdered, and it was in a satanic ritual. But the other thing is right on our property, a plane with special ops, I think it was 13 people or something, 14. I can't remember the exact number right this minute, but they disintegrated above our property. They disintegrated. Whoa. And then, so that's what I mean, this giant portal of hell, but it's still a good place too. It's still a good place, but there's stuff here.
No, that's I'm saying that's what's crazy. And look, it's like, and free to have the ability to like see these portals, right? I mean, because it's like, whoa.
So when you see
a plane crash.
When you see a portal
crash into this property, how could a plane, a guy from the Air Force or whatever, how could both of those happen here in this 5 acres? How is that possible? And all these deaths. I mean, it's like there's something.
Mercedes,
here,
when you see a portal, what does it actually look like? I mean, what do you see in your mind's eye?
Right. So, like, what I would see was like a black hole. It's like all of a sudden you let's say in a computer graphics thing. It's almost like you have like a regular view, and then all of a sudden you see there's a black hole tunnel that. It's just there. It's like there. And I've seen little weird black creatures. Like I can see those in my mind's eye. It's almost like it's in your mind's eye, but it's like I'm there. And like you can feel a lot of these places would have that weird energy feeling where it's static. So it wasn't just me. It was like, I can't tell you how many people we brought out without telling them that. And they would see these things or feel them and say, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they felt that. One woman who, her name is White Raven, she said that she could see a giant, and she's a spiritual, amazing person that helps a lot of tribe people. She could see a big black hole. I never talked about this to her. She saw people coming in and people going out. And she said that she saw, it was like it was never ending. Like there was good spirits coming in and bad spirits. It was like a subway kind of thing. And she saw lots of children that they were dead. They had been killed. These were all her visions, right? So everything she said, she never ever talked to me about what had happened. So this was her own, and so everything was like, oh my God, because I see these little children. I've seen them here, and I've heard them, and not just me. So it makes sense to me that she was picking up something that happened from the past, probably. What do we call them when they're traveling through people here, but when they're trying to get to one community to the other.
Well, let me bring Scotty in here, because Mercedes said our key word, the kind of the mist, the fog, the electrical kind of feeling that you get, the static, my friend.
Yeah.
I was looking at Nick Redfern the other day. He's done a whole article about this very phenomenon, man. He's on the same frequency as we are. There's something to this. I don't know. It must be what happens when dimensions rub up against each other, when portals open.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to explain it.
You're obviously talking about some kind of charged energy field of some sort that's creating a plasma or a mist, or I don't know. It's a highly charged atmosphere, and it's creating this effect or whatever. And I mean, we see it in many different things which involve what we would consider, I guess, portal travel, right? I mean, Bermuda Triangle, planes flying into
people just they just drop it into their report. They don't really pause on it because it's just like insignificant to the main thing. But me and you, when you look at enough of these reports and you see it happening time and time and time and time and time again, it's a pattern, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it does make you wonder, how many of these portals could we just be sitting next to and not even see? And these things are traveling in and out because we don't have the ability to see it. But for someone like Mercedes, who's sitting there going, look, man, it's a Grand Central Station, and we got everybody flowing in and out.
It's the demonic superhighway. Yep.
The demonic
It's really interesting. One thing I found out from a different perspective is recently, because we're working on a documentary on all this research, but I've brought in some key people, or they came to me, the God brought them right to me, that have also been researching the same things I was researching to help us here. And one of them just so happens to be that some of these portals, they could possibly be burial grounds, because the energy of the ancestors that are buried in these, or the people that have passed on, a lot of them were buried in tribes or groups. And when those get disturbed, that energy can really come out. And so they're around this area, there could be that. I recently found that they would bury, and even in your place in Kansas, I betcha, they would bury their dead, the natives, in their fields, because they had crops here. They were doing crops here. In fact, the Hohokam, they've found, this was one of the biggest communities over 5,000 years ago, that they had incredible crops that, that's like, it's been put into nobody knows. In fact, there's burial grounds now that they have found that are kind of covered up. They're finding them now as we progress and get into this new modernization of housing coming in, that they're burying these burial grounds and not telling anybody. But the history is dating back now from archaeologists here over 5,000 years. It's supposed to be 4,000, but they found it to be 5,000 years old. And this could be one of the biggest places of agriculture back then. And so what if these spirits that were here, what if all of this mystery, or this covering up of evidence of the truth of what was here and what if they're not happy about that? What if it's some of that is wanting the truth to come out? Why are they going to cover it up? Because of housing? So part of my goal now is to actually make a documentary and help the city, or help the ones that are trying to actually bring out the spirits and the culture that's hidden. and the mystery of that's part of what I guess I'm supposed to be doing. So that's what I'm going to do with this, because all of my research. But yeah, what if you guys, what if you think about that? Like, that is its energy itself. Like, if you take a burial ground and you take half the bodies and then somebody digs them up and leaves the other half there, and then can you imagine if they have had a special blessed, what are they? Okay, those are sacred ground.
Let me bring Scotty Boy in, because I see you chomping at the bit here, brother. I hear what Mercedes is saying, and anytime you get these burial grounds, even when you don't disturb them, you're looking at woo-woo around these areas, you know?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and you're dealing with a location of where a lot of emotional energy and a lot of spiritual energy is all concentrated in one location, right? You know, whether it be if that person passed away there or was taken there after their passing, you know, usually, you know, the family gathers, people gather in that location. They mourn. There's a lot of emotional release in those locations, and you know, there's a lot of energy and everything tied to that. And then when you deal with that on a massive scale, where you're talking about maybe thousands of people being buried in a location, or you know, whatever. And if they went through the specific steps of putting those people, you know, going through the ceremony and everything of putting their soul at peace, you know, and at rest or whatever, and then you get something in there that disturbs that, and essentially you've broken the seal, right? You've disturbed that peace, you've disturbed, you know, all of that, and you've basically, like, you've ripped open a hole in the veil by doing something like that. That's what I think, you know.
Exactly.
And covering it up, like you said, if they're trying to hide it and whatnot, that doesn't help the situation at all, because now it means they're knowingly doing this and trying to keep it a secret. And you know, maybe those spirits are extremely upset about that. Maybe this is their way of kind of letting everybody know what was really there, you know. So
well, we're almost out of time, guys, and I just want to make sure I want to make sure I've got a chance to thank Mercedes, and I know Mercedes is going to be joining us on Warrior Mode soon, and I definitely think we need to do a follow-up show on here, because we never even got into the remote viewing, the remote healing, any of that stuff. So we'll definitely have to do it again one Thursday, Scott, if you're up for it.
Definitely. We might have to get Mercedes on Freaky sometime.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Sounds like a plan. Yes, indeed. So
well,
listen.
Thank you so much for having me on here, and I just feel so blessed. And let's just say thank you, God, for this wonderful meeting together here, and for all the listeners. Bless you, everybody, with divine light and healing, and may everybody just feel this good energy everywhere. Amen.
See?
I hope.
There you go. See, that's what I'm talking about, Scott. Positive vibes, man. We said we would bring more of that to the table, you know?
Yeah. There you go.
It's kind of positive mixed with spooky woo.
See, it's the perfect combination. And talking of woo,
it is. We'll
be getting into some good stuff tomorrow night on the aforementioned Freaky Friday. Scotty boys, looking forward to that one, aren't you, man?
Yes, updates from the Casa here. I will inform everybody of the latest paranormal shenanigans that have been taking place.
Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that. Hope you're all looking forward to that as well. That'll be right here on the home of the Kev Baker Show and Freaky Friday, your #1 network, Truth Frequency Radio, www.tfrlive.com. Don't go anywhere after the break. More live radio on the way on your #1 network, where we give you protection from deception and where silence is consent. Until next time, wherever you are, look at TFR, then touch that dial.